Hello and welcome again to the Writer Review. This is Eric Carruth Writer, and this week we're going to be taking a look back at the 2005 fantasy film titled MirrorMask. Now, MirrorMask runs for an hour and 41 minutes long. It is directed by Dave McKean. It is produced by Simon Moorhead. The script was done by Neil Gaiman, and the story was done by Neil Gaiman and Dave McKean. The score was done by Ian Bellamy. The cinematography by Tony Sheeran, and the editing was done by Nicholas Gaster. And the stars of the movie are Stephanie Leonidas, Gina McKee, Rob Brydon, Jason Barry, Dora Bryan, Stephen Fry, and Lenny Henry. Now, MirrorMask tells the tale of an adolescent 15-year-old named Helena Campbell, played by Stephanie Leonidas, who has just been hit with the spell of teenage rebellion. Yes, we all go through these phases where we don't want to fully be recognized as adults, but at the same time, we still don't want to be treated like insignificant kids. We're kind of at this phase, at this balance. Hey, I've been through that, and now she is also experiencing that. Her parents run a successful circus, and when her mother, played by Gina McKee, who also plays numerous characters in this movie as well, becomes terminally ill, she feels that she is herself to blame, all because she just wants to live the life like other girls. In fact, she even goes off on a tangent and actually literally wished her mother would die. Of course, sometimes kids and adults and adolescents sometimes say things they don't mean, assuming that it will not really happen, that it's just venting out anger, only to realize that sometimes when you do vent out anger, sometimes wishes do come true. It doesn't always happen, but it could happen. And sure enough, her mother fell terminally ill. Helena gets transported into a mysterious dream world based on her drawings. Now, in this world lives mythological creatures, disappointing books, and a queen who has been under a coma. And the only way she could be regained of her power is if Helena looks for the mysterious mirror mask, or else this mysterious world will be taken over by the shadows, led by the evil Shadow Queen, played by Gina McKee. Like I said, some of these performers are playing numerous characters, more than one. Now, one of the things that kind of bugs me about this movie is who are the age demographics they're looking for? Because I find a lot of things, because I know usually when it's under Jim Henson's Creature Shop or Jim Henson Company, whatever you wish to call it, of course their audience is basically aimed towards the younger age demographics. We're looking at the ages between maybe 9 years old to 17. And I just don't know really what specifically their age group is. I mean, having a girl wish her mother would die, that's kind of very edgy for a movie that is aimed towards a younger age group. And if you ever look at Helena's drawings, most of them don't look like something a kid would draw. I mean, not to say that her artistry isn't good, it's actually quite stunning. But if you ever look at her pictures that she draws, they seem more like depressing. It's predominantly pencil drawing stuff, but it looks more gothic, more emo than it does look in terms of a more spontaneous, light, bright stuff that you would expect to see in a Jim Henson movie. And that's not to say that all of Jim Henson produced movies are lighthearted and colorful. I mean, sure, Dark Crystal has some dark imagery. Obviously, Labyrinth has a lot of darkness into it as well. But I don't. But those movies, Dark Crystal and Labyrinth, as well as even movies like like Hop and Alice in Wonderland, which also seems to have that fantasy element with, bright sprite characters mixed in with some dark content. But this movie actually sometimes feels more gothic than it does as a children's fairy tale. There isn't anything really light-hearted about this movie. And if you look at Helena's drawings, they're predominantly gothic, emo. And even she herself has kind of a more emo demeanor. Never mind the fact that, most of the movie and most of the movie she's in her dreamland with, she is seen sporting cute little bunny slippers. Don't let those cute little bunny slippers fool you. Her drawings are actually quite creepy. And a lot of the CGI graphics in this movie are predominantly creepy than they are cute. Not to say that there isn't any creepiness in movies like Dark Crystal and Labyrinth, but this one here seems more emo than Dark Crystal or even Labyrinth. And yes, a lot of goths and emos do like fantasy movies. Just as much as they love horror and sci-fi. But I think this one is taking it to extremes. And I will get on to more of that. So MirrorMask is definitely in conjunction with Jim Henson Company. And it's under the helm of comic book legends Dave McKean and Neil Gaiman, who directed and wrote this film. The movie itself is predominantly laden with computer-enhanced graphics. The movie itself is digitally dependent. The sets are digitally dependent. And it even seems like the performers seem to be somewhat digitally enhanced. Really, even more, and now even more before you can utter the words Sin City. Because if you try to compare this movie to Sin City, you are out on a limb. I mean, if you look at the facial expressions of a lot of the characters, they are also digitally enhanced. And is that a good thing? Not really. Because most of the characters in this movie even tend to have very stoic expressions on their face. You can't tell if they're embodying happiness or fear or sadness or anger. You just can't seem to get that. And part of communication is not just through the five senses, but also in terms of facial expressions. Emotions is also another essential idiosyncrasy that helps enhance communication. How do you know I'm in fear? How do you know I'm happy? How do you know I'm sad? If I just continually have a perpetual stoic expression on my face. And that's kind of like what one of the biggest weaknesses in this movie is. An example of why stoic expressions in this movie seem to lackluster. Take for example Stephen Fry. In this movie, he plays the librarian. The only part of his face that is not computer digitally enhanced was his mouth. The rest of the ensemble seem to be either sporting masks or their facial features are digitally saturated. And like I said, that does not exactly work to good advance. No. That doesn't sit very well with me either. I want to see emotion. I don't want to see one-dimensional facial expressions. I can do that if I want. Look at me. I have a stoic expression on my face. Look at the way I deliver my lines. This is the way how a lot of the performers in this movie seem to act. Notice? No facial expressions, just me speaking almost semi robotic. That's what you get. Me, I want to see you deliver your lines like you have expression, not a stoic look, not a semi robotic voice. A lot of the characters in this movie, not all of them, but a lot of them seem to have expression when they're talking, but the facial expression through their lips does not tell the story or does not express any kind of emotion to generate any kind of concern within the characters. There is absolutely no denial that Mirror Mask is one of the most visually stunning films that I have seen in a very long time. And the beauty of this film will surely leave a sparkle in your eyes once the end credits roll. But under all those vibrant colors and all those wonderfully digitalized characters coming to life, the story leaves a near emptiness with a rather narrow plot behind the surrealism. It's like, for example, it's Christmas time. Everybody loves Christmas now, don't they? Well, suppose somebody gives you a present. It's all wrapped up in a nice, immaculate package with a cute little bow. How thoughtful. Ooh, you get so excited. The anxiety is rushing into your head. You open it up, and it turns out to be a pair of used socks. That's how I describe this movie. It looks beautiful on the outside. You look forward to this kind of movie. And then all of a sudden, underneath all that beauty is a big pile of nothing. On top of another big pile of nothing. Or if not very little. Of nothing. And that's kind of like what I thought this movie was. So underneath all this decadent visuals are nothing but mere distractions between a rather non-existent story, and after a while these visuals popping start to become quite tiresome and also even at times borderline redundant. I am especially disappointed that Neil Gaiman, the co-writer of Good Omens, who actually wrote the script. I was having my expectations really high here. Instead, he only made a script. He only wrote a script that was only just half baked. Gaiman, where did you go wrong? Maybe I was expecting too much. But if I was expecting too much, then I wanted a lot. Instead, I got too little. And too little next to nothing. Also, the performers did not really strike a positive note here. It's pretty clear that Stephanie Leonidas, who plays Helena, was only cast for her looks and nothing more. Her acting is flatter than a singular pancake, and her one-dimensional emotions, knowing the situation that she is in, can be just as annoying as the overuse of CGI and visuals. And the worst of it all is that her face is the only one that's not digitally dependent. She was nowhere close to Jennifer Connelly's performance in Labyrinth or Maya Wasikowska. I don't know if I pronounced her name right. In the 2010 version of Alice in Wonderland, the one with Johnny Depp. They actually played pretty good, convincing roles, and they were playing very, very similar roles to the role that Stephanie Leonidas was playing. There's this often common theme in fantasy stories of this magnitude where a teenage girl wants to go out on her own, suddenly, feels bad about what she said or does, gets transported into this bizarre fantasy land where she either befriends weird creatures or she makes enemies out of weird creatures. You find that in this movie too. I mean, there's a lot of stuff in this movie that's clearly recycled from other movies from the past. And this here doesn't make any bones about it, or doesn't feel any kind of sympathy or remorse about it. Okay. The movie actually truly inspired me to want to see Zhang Yimou's Hero again. Because, like MirrorMasks, the film was once again a visual sugar treat. The only difference was that Zhang Yimou's Hero also had a great story behind the stunning visuals. MirrorMask had a contrasting impact on me. I thought that with all those visuals, we could have seen a film taken in the same vein as any film that was made by Jim Henson Company, or even something in the same vein as Terry Gilliam could have directed. But in the end, there really was nothing going for it. In fact, at times it gets quite annoying and nonsensical. After the first hour, I was looking patiently at the clock, hoping that this film could end sooner than expected. Almost to the point where I just didn't care about the direction of the film, or even the characters for that matter. It's all about too much style and very little to almost non-existent substance. And while Hero had a more relaxing atmosphere and its visuals and storytelling that had left me satisfied, MirrorMask left me unsettled. And when I walked out of the theater, I was almost wanting to drop my hat on the ground and to stomp on it to help calm myself down, because it was just so freaking annoying, and it really just totally pissed me off about this movie that I just almost wanted to take my baseball cap off and stomp on it a few times to embody how I felt after I watched this movie. This movie really, really, really totally pissed me off. The visuals, yes, they were too much, and the story was too minuscule. This film had a lot of good things going for it to make it something more refreshing, vibrant, and compelling. Instead, we get something that's overblown, frustrating, and pointless. So while the visuals actually helped this movie, it didn't really put a bright spot in my approval. So therefore, out of a scale of 10, I have to give this movie a 5. So I guess this ends my rider review. Thank you all for listening in. If you want to subscribe to my channel, please feel free to do so. If you wish to leave a comment, go right ahead. Just remember, be kind, be courteous, and don't be rude. And I will be back again with another movie review. So until next time, this is Eric Rider saying keep watching those movies, and I'll see you around. Goodbye.